But Brandon, we're going to move on into the next team, and this is a team, I'll be honest, like every time we run through these standings, it's like, okay, who's the next team? I keep forgetting that this team was so low in the standings that they were at 2-7 in the conference, 4-8 overall, and we're talking about the UCLA Bruins. And to get right into it, the starting point for this team is very obvious. You got to start from the quarterback here. This is a guy that both you and I have talked about coming into this season for the 2018 NFL Draft. Is going to be a guy we talk about in mock drafts going forward this season, is going to be looking to kind of have a redemption story for 2017 because we loved him as a freshman, did great things. Then as a sophomore, shoulder injury plagued his season all last year. And now, after being 100% at spring practices, he's looking to basically be that quarterback that we saw 2 years ago in 2015 in his freshman season. So I'm just going to, very plain and simple, Brandon, is this going to be the year for UCLA where they do better because Josh Rosen does better, and will we see improvements from the junior quarterback?
Yeah, I think we will. I think that if he's able to stay healthy and he keeps the injury away, I think that he's going to return to form in what he was as a freshman. And he was really good. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was very, very good as a freshman, and people had really high hopes for him last year. And then, unfortunately, all he had in him was 6 games before he got injured and then lost for the season. And I think that with him coming back, there's a lot on the line for him. Because right now, who are people talking about for the 2018 NFL Draft? Sam Darnold. They're not talking about Josh Rosen.
I think that, this one they're talking about, Darnold's at the top. He's the prized pony. However, after him, it's not Josh Rosen. They immediately go to Allen.
Josh Allen.
The kid from Wyoming.
And it's not Josh Rosen because he got injured. Mm-hmm. And NFL teams start to look at that and they go, injury, this guy's injury. Even if you have one injury, you're injury plagued then. I mean, that's what you can be labeled as. And it can hurt you. I mean, it can cost you millions of dollars these days. But Josh Rosen, what he needs to focus on doing to put himself back on the map is having one hell of a junior campaign. And I think he'll be able to do that. Look at what he did as a freshman. Look at what he did as a freshman. And then I have no doubt in my mind that if this offensive line is able to get better, and they need to be better because there were 0 100-yard games for running backs on the ground last year, and running backs averaged under 3 yards a carry. If this offensive line opens up more holes, gives Allen time, doesn't allow him to get beat up. Rosen. Gives Rosen time. He will be very good yet again.
Well, and that's the big thing. The whole there is, from UCLA fans coming into the year, there's kind of optimism behind Josh Rosen, because I look at, you mentioned the numbers from that 2015 campaign. In case you guys aren't looking at them, 3,670 yards, 23 touchdowns, only 11 INTs. That phenomenal. On top of a 60% completion rating. Completion percentage, I meant, not rating. But then you look at injuries, but just under 2,000 yards. However, you still look at his touchdown to interception ratio, 10-5. He still is a 2-to-1 interception ratio, which to me coming out, his completion percentage dropped by 0.7, but whatever, it's close to 60%. The big thing for Josh Rosen will be, can he stay healthy? Because if he's not able to stay healthy, UCLA will not have a successful season without him. And that's not saying that the team is decimated and he's the only one there. He is just that good. He is that good. And with the offensive line, they got to keep him upright, but also when it looks to running the football, this is a team that only averaged 2.93 yards per carry last season. That is, you can't have that. I would what I would love to see is double that. I want to see almost 6 yards per carry, if not 6 point something yards per carry from my running back. So on offense, I kind of look at it and I go, the Achilles heel, yet again, is going to be that offensive line. Yeah, they only lost one starter, which is a good thing, but they need to improve, like you said, because if they can't, Josh Rosen could get injured again. That's the worst case scenario for a quarterback that cannot stay healthy. Look at Jay Cutler in his time. We're here in Chicago. Jay Cutler's a prime example. Didn't have an offensive line. How often was he injured here in Chicago? Every other Tuesday was basically Jay Cutler injury report for
So thank goodness they don't
season.
play on Tuesday, but
Yeah,
it would be
well, that
every other
was
Sunday.
that's where the press conferences were that week for the NFL. However, Josh Rosen, if they can keep him protected, I think he can get back to those 2015 numbers. And I look at the schedule, he has some winnable games. Texas Tech, he can win that one. Hawaii, Memphis can easily win. This team could start out 0-3 if Josh Rosen is healthy. And then we get to the Pac-12 play. Arizona could be a winnable game. Oregon, a winnable game. They could beat Cal. They can beat Utah. They can beat Arizona State with a healthy Josh Rosen. The only 3 games it comes down to for me is Colorado, Washington, and USC. It's the only 3 games I look at for, that's going to be a tough one because of the teams that they're going to be going up against.
Those are the easy ones to just point out. I think that this team has a real potential of winning 10 games this year. And if they do that, it's a very successful season. And if they do that, they're really going to be competitive on their side of the Pac-12. I'll tell you what, is that we talked about, when we just talked about Arizona and Rich Rodriguez being a guy on the hot seat, I'll tell you another guy who's on the hot seat. It's this guy.
Jim Mora.
It's Jim Mora. I mean, Jim Mora's been doing this at UCLA for what, now 6 years or so? It's time to get your team moving in the Pac-12 championship game and then potentially a playoff berth. You know, I mean, I think it's kind of that time. And with all the mix-ups and shake-ups with coaching and coaches here and there, offensive, defensive sides of the ball, it's time. And you don't know what you're going to have after Josh Rosen is gone. So, and he's going to be gone after this year. I mean, there's no doubt.
Well, there's only one, in my mind, there's only one way Josh Rosen stays for a senior year.
If he gets injured.
If he gets injured. That's it. If he's injured and his draft stock is going to fall, let's say out of the first round, he'll stay for a senior year. But if you have a successful year this year like you want to have, then you're going to say, well, you know what? We're basically going to be losing him at the end of this year. And the thing with, when it comes to Jim Mora that I find interesting is that it felt like to me, especially during the last 2 years, because I know he had the 9-5, 10-3, 10-3, and then 8-5. Then this last 4-6 with Rosen, I kind of feel like he missed an opportunity because you had the opportunity to kind of, I don't want to say win over LA, win over California, because when I think of UCLA and I think of USC, I kind of think of the same conversation we have for the Lakers and the Clippers. Yeah, the Clippers might be good right now, but it'll always be Laker country. I kind of feel the same way when it comes to these two teams where, yeah, UCLA was a better team. They didn't have the scandal. They didn't have the sanctions against them. But it's really, LA is really USC country. Like, they're the more popular team among people. And I feel like at the end of this, could we be looking at Jim Mora saying, he missed it. He missed the chance to make this team into something and really capitalize off of when USC wasn't able to compete for postseason play. We're not able to compete for any of the national championships. And now that basically they can, we're now looking at it where he's got to look across town, and really it's you look at his quarterback and his team. Yeah, his quarterback's good. His team, though, their story is a redemption story. Can they do better than last year? Where he's looking across town at USC, their quarterback is already being named right now as the number 1 pick in the draft, the best prospect for this year coming into the 2018 season. And there is some high praise for the Trojans that they could be college football playoff bound this year.
We want to keep talking about Josh Rosen, so let's talk about a little bit last year before he got hurt. Against Texas A&M, he threw for 343 yards. He had 3 picks in that game. Want to cut down on those. 307 against BYU, 350 against Arizona, 400 against Arizona State. That could be him every game. If he's out there on the field, that's what you're going to get every game from him. That should put you in a really good position to win. And then what the side of the football that we really haven't touched on a whole lot yet is the defense. The secondary last year was solid. The run D was fine, but they have a pretty solid defense, UCLA does. The line should be really strong if the young guys step up, and I think that they will. The linebacking core, again, pretty young, but good enough, I think, to get the job done. And then the secondary could be among the best in the Pac-12 with guys like safety Julio Wadood and Adarius Pickett. I think that these guys will be able to get the job done. And if Rosen is doing what he does when healthy, this team will be at the top. This team will be at the top, but they've got to stay healthy.
Are you saying of the South or of maybe...
The South.
Okay.
The South, that's what we're talking about.
I didn't know I don't know if we were going into a national kind of side of it of this team will be at the top of, let's say, the top 25 ranking.
No. This team will be at the top of the South fighting with USC, but they'll put themselves right up there.
I think that this division this year could come down to, like, Colorado to me, yeah, they won it last year, but Colorado's a team that I kind of feel like could take a step back. And the only reason I'm saying could take a step back is that UCLA takes a big step forward and kind of fights to where I see this division coming down to the Battle of LA. Whoever wins that UCLA USC game,
Battle of Los Angeles,
Battle
terrible
of Los Angeles,
movie, by the way.
Or
Terrible
if
movie.
basically if we're going to go with kind of like the boxing fight matchup, because we got Mayweather-McGregor coming up in August, if we're going to basically title it Rosen versus Darnold in that game, going head-to-head, that's what it's going to come down to. I feel like whoever wins that game will win the South, and whether that is 10 wins, whether it's not 10 wins, the only thing schedule-wise I look at USC and I have qualms about is the games that I listed. However, Colorado and Stanford are two that I look at where right now I'd give them wins for the Bruins because I like Josh Rosen when he's healthy can make this team one of the best teams in the Pac-12. My big thing, though, is that Washington game. It is at Washington, and if they lose that, and then on top of the USC game, if they lose those two, there's no way that they are going to win the Pac-12 South. And if they lose that Washington game, then it's like, well, you know what? Now we really have to win that Trojan game, because if we don't, then it's like we're really in we have the 8 ball against us. And then you look at the Trojan schedule. We're going to get to them later. I just want to mention this, though. They don't have to play Washington. They don't have to play that tough team. The toughest team, conference-wise, that they have to play other than you is Colorado. So that is one thing that could hurt the Bruins, is that their schedule compared to the team they're going to be going up against in the South is a lot tougher than the USC Trojans.
November 18th is a very important date for UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important for USC as well, but it's very important for UCLA, especially when you say, Ricky, about the fact that UCLA seems to have the tougher schedule compared to USC, and those are going to be the two teams I think that are going to be vying for the top spot on this side of their conference. And it's going to be close. I mean, that whoever wins that one is, like you said, they're they're most likely going to win that side of the conference. And one point I want to make before we wrap it up on UCLA is we talked about, the running backs having to have a bigger role, and they have to have a bigger role this year to be able to take some pressure off of Rosen so it's not all him. You want him to go out there and throw for 300-plus yards each game, but sometimes he may just not. Your running backs, the running game has to pick you up. So rushing yards last year, opponents had over 2,000 rushing yards. UCLA just had over 1,000.
Now, the question I want to ask you with that, is this an issue of the running backs need to step up, or does this go back to an issue we mentioned earlier where if the offensive line is more solid, opens up more holes, then the running backs can do their job better?
It all works together in tandem. The running backs still have to step up. They still have to be better than... What the hell? They still have to be better than what they were last year.
Brandon's getting so excited. He's knocking everything over there.
But it does have a lot to do with the offensive line. Rosen staying healthy has a lot to do with the offensive line.
Yeah.
Don't think that, it just comes down to the running back. The offensive line is so important. They are critical to the success of this offense, this team. But I think at the same time, the running backs, they need to, at the same time, be able to create some things on their own, create some running space on their own. The good running backs will do that, but the offensive line needs to be able to open up a lot more holes for them. My
kind of final bottom line for this team is the two things that it's going to come down to for a successful season. Number one's the offensive line. Number two is Josh Rosen's health. If both of those things work out, UCLA should win most of their games. The only two that I kind of, like I said, question about are Washington and USC. However, at the end of everything, depending on, even if Rosen plays the entire year and is not injured, I still have this team finishing second in the South, one game behind the Trojans. I think this is going to be a fight for the South between the two LA teams, and it will be a California-dominated Pac-12 South at the top, with UCLA being one of them. But before I kick it on to them, Brandon, any final thoughts that you want to give out about the Bruins? This is where you guys come in. You guys know the deal. We dish it off to you guys for your opinion. Let us know what you think about Josh Rosen. Is he going to stay healthy the entire year? What is your big key for this team to win? And are they going to win the Pac-12 South, or will they fall short to the USC Trojans, who seem to be the favorite coming into this year for the South? Let us know down below in the comment section.